And welcome back to Subculture After Dark, where we have a very, very special guest on the phone for you right now because the legendary Katatonia are coming back to Australia for their first headline tour in nearly a decade. And we know a lot of you out there are very, very excited about this tour. So we thought we would get Nicholas from Katatonia on the phone right now to chat about this amazing tour that's coming up. Welcome to the program, Nicholas.
Thank you, Dave. It's a pleasure, and it's nice to chat with you and to be on this radio show.
Now, mate, as I said in my intro, there are a lot of people out there very, very excited about the fact that you're returning back to Australia. How do you feel about coming back to our fine country?
It's gonna be amazing. I mean, I'm always having a great time, and I only had good experiences playing in Australia. Super good food, friendly, people, good hospitality, very welcoming, in making you feel like you're at home, pretty much. So it's gonna be good fun to be back.
So how do you find our audiences here? Because a lot of people say that the Aussie audiences at a show get pretty wild. How do you find our audiences here in Australia stack up against audiences around the world?
I think they stack up very well. That it's you can see that people in Australia appreciate and really likes to be there. It's not like it can be some. Sometimes I have to admit, when you're playing in Sweden, especially in Stockholm, it feels like they kind of, I don't know, that they're not really into it. They're kind of standing with their arms crossed and wondering if they should have watched Ricky Lake instead or something like that. But that's not the case in Australia. It's very much the opposite, and that makes us very happy, and it makes the travel worthwhile as well. Not just for us, but for the audience, because I think when an audience is engaged, it becomes a better experience for them as well. It's very much like a give and take kind of thing, and I think Australian audience gives plenty.
When you're playing a show and the audience don't look like they're that engaged, like you said, they're standing around with their arms crossed or something like that, as a performer, how do you get through that? Like, do you make it your personal goal to try and get that person with their arms folded moving around, or how do you get through that?
Of course, that's kind of like why we're there, to bring a show good enough to make people want to engage with it and to be part of it, not just by listening, but also like in other kind of ways, and bring energy to the table. But sometimes that just doesn't work. So then you have to focus on the few. Sometimes that actually does this, and just kind of zone in on them and just kind of like create a bubble for yourself which works, and you can make you continue putting on a good show and not get too demoralized, because sometimes people are they express themselves differently. Sometimes people think that it was the best time of their life, but it looked like they were at a funeral or something. But it's so sometimes you had those experiences where the whole audience was pretty much dead, nothing happened, but then you read the day after, like, it just hundreds of comments about how good it was, and it was the best night of their life, and it was amazing, and they wish they could go back. You're like, okay, well, it was probably just the culture in that city, which is in Stockholm. You have to focus on the first few rows, and then the people will stand with their arms crossed. So
Yeah.
it's just different, and you can't really judge by that either. Always, you have to just continue doing what you do, and it's important that you exit the stage and knowing that you did everything you can in your power to make people have a good time.
Definitely. And Katatonia have built a reputation over the years of being one of the best live bands in the world. How much rehearsals do you guys go into heading into a tour like this to make sure that you stay at the top of your game?
Oh wow, that's amazing! I didn't know that we were that we were seeing that highly and well. But that's super good. Wow, they made my day. And I mean, yeah, there's lots of rehearsing going on and put into our live shows, and especially when you're entering a new touring cycle, we tend to rehearse like for weeks, almost a month, like before, and doing that several days in the week with long sessions. So we kind of view it as going to a 9 to 5 job, Monday to Friday, just rehearsing, and also, then you can pinpoint if there's something in the set that doesn't feel right, or something in the ambience, in the backgrounds that doesn't sit totally good, and then we can amend that and do a Mark II of that song, if you will, like a revision, and then go out with something that we're super confident with. And you want to rehearse so much that you don't need to think about what you're gonna play. You can just be present in the room and more connect with the audience rather than being unsure of how the riff goes.
Talking of new touring cycles, of course, this is the first time you've been to Australia since the release of Sky Void of Stars, which is a fantastic album. How have you found playing those tracks live over the last 12 months?
It's been great, and it's been so very well received, and people seem very excited about when we play the new songs, which is, of course, something that gives even more energy back to the band. It would be horrible if it would be the new, bringing out new material and play that live, and then people are like, yawning and then waiting for you to play July or My Twin or Leaders or the old songs. But it's been quite the opposite. I think it just took shy of a week on the first tour, the European tour, when we released the album, when people actually were singing along, and there were choirs, people singing along with the lyrics they've only known for 5 or 6 days.
Yeah.
So it's super cool, and it gives me goosebumps just to think about, and that's why we're doing this. Not to boost our egos or something, but it's super nice to see when it's that well received, because it means a lot for us.
Definitely. Do you get nervous when you're playing a new track for the first time? Not because you think that you might make a mistake, but do you get nervous at how the audience are going to react to a new song?
Yeah, definitely. Of course. It's always something that's a little bit nerve-wracking, and you want people to like it and to dig with it. And the last thing you want is people to stand looking like, now I can't remember what the word is in English, but the small little houses you build for birds, the little boxes with the hole. And yeah, so people don't stand looking like that and kind of wondering what's going on, but that they actually immediately like it. And also probably lots of people out there, they kind of they know what to expect, and they've seen the set list before and would immediately realize if something is different. So you can see some people being very excited when it's the first time you play a song live, that they know that it's the first time is something truly unique. And yeah, so it's kind of like that moment when you look at each other and okay, let's do this and see where this goes. But it's super much fun as well, and it's good to keep ourselves on edge and not to be too safe.
Yeah. Talking of set lists, is it getting harder to put together a set list these days? You've got 30 years worth of music there to choose from. Does it get hard these days to put together a set list, especially for a territory like Australia that you don't get to play in that often?
Yeah, definitely. I think many people would have the notion that it's easier if you have more to choose from, but it gets very, very much harder because there's so many songs you want to play, and so many songs that you know that will go down well, but then you would look at like 2.5, 3 hour long gigs, and I don't think anyone would would have the energy for that. So it's the case where you have so much music and people are so diverse in the catalog that you put out. Some like the older stuff, some people like the newer stuff, and some people are in between. So it's gonna always leave someone a little bit slightly disappointed and not really like 100% happy with the set list. You can't really, accommodate everyone, and including ourselves as well. It's like there's plenty of songs which I haven't played for a long while, like New Night, for example, which I think is a like perfect live song, but you can't really win them all, So it's getting more and more hard to construct these set lists and do something that can include every album and like include everything, and also make a good chunk of the set list for the new album that you're promoting.
Yep.
So definitely, it's more kind of scratching your head. And I think me, Moyo, and Jonas, we were doing like curating the set list for the US run to slightly different ones on a flight, and it took a good few hours of just trying to think what material do we actually have, and which songs do we want to play, and what would fit, what could be a good opening, and what could be a good opening but without playing it to something that people would expect. So that's when we decided that set number 2 would start with No Beacon to Illuminate Our Fall, which is the closing song on the Skyward of Stars album, and more proggy one. So that was an unexpected and fun move, and something that shows that we're not always playing it too safe.
Awesome. Well, I cannot wait to be able to see that set list that you've got planned for us here in Australia. I was going to ask you, though, are you aware of how many dedicated fans you have here in Australia? Because I know of at least one fan that listens to this show that has bought tickets to every one of your shows here in Australia, which means she's going to be paying nearly, I've estimated at about $10,000 worth of airfares to follow you around. Are you aware of how many dedicated fans you have in Australia?
Wow, that's amazing. No, I didn't know. That's wow, that's shocking in a good way. Wow. I hope that she will like the shows, and that she will enjoy it as much as we're gonna do.
Yep.
And that's very, very humbling and very, very cool to know. And thank you for letting me know, because that's super, super badass.
Yeah. You mentioned before that one of the things you love about Australia is our food. Tell us a little bit about that. What kind of food do you love to go out and eat when you're in a country like Australia?
Some barbecued food, and I mean it doesn't have to like be necessarily like Australian food, but it's like it feels like people in Australia like food, and when you go out to a restaurant, even if it's from some other culture, it's well made.
Yep.
So it's not like you go to some other place, and of course I don't want to mention the places, but there are examples of countries you come to, and then you can't just like even if it's other types of food, and whatever restaurant you go into, it's kind of like half-hearted, It's not like super well made or anything, and people just like that's the standard of the food. But in Australia, I've experienced that you always get good food, and always like, I think maybe that's also why it tastes so great, because you feel like you're getting well taken care of, and it's very genuine as well in Australia. That it's not like just because of getting a tip or something like that, but it's like people are genuinely open-hearted. So that's great.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait for this tour to kick off in February, and I know we're running out of time very, very quickly. So to finish off, what would you like to say to people out there who have already bought tickets to the shows and to people who are thinking about grabbing a ticket to one of your shows?
I mean, a massive thank you and a massive, gratitude for people coming out to the shows, and it means a lot to us. And I mean, it's nothing that we take for granted. I mean, sometimes you get to these shows where you have bad attendances, and of course you're putting on the best show that you can, even though it doesn't matter how many people that comes to the show. But it's just it's a different kind of spark when you know that people come out to the shows and are really anticipating it, and also, I don't know, spending so much time and hard-earned cash as the girl that you're talking about, that you're gonna fly to all of the 5 shows. So just, a massive thank you, and that I hope that everyone will leave feeling that they had a good time, and that they want more as well, that they're not fed up and thinking this was the last time that I saw this band. God damn it.